All right. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Jared Kingston. I'm a solution architect and Salesforce MVP with Aperio. I help lead the MVP office hours and would like to welcome everybody today. Excited for this office hours coming up here. So just before we get going, in case you haven't realized, the date keeps getting closer and closer for Dreamforce. So exciting, but also it looms near. So I hope to see a lot of people out there. Just a quick note as we get started here, for those who may have not been on the office hours before, welcome. This is an open discussion. It's sort of like the Answers community, but live. We do this the first and third Friday of every month, and we kind of have embraced a motto of no question too big or too small. There's no such thing as a dumb question on the office hours. If you're a complete newbie and have a simple question, please ask it. That's what we're here for. We post the recording out to Twitter as well as the community. So if you're a big Twitter fan, follow us at MVP Office Hours. We post new sessions out there as well as the recordings. So definitely check that out, as well as the community page, our community group. We post all the updates there, and any helpful resources that come up during the call we'll also post out there. Because it is open, we just ask that you mute yourself if you're not speaking. That way we can hear questions and answers clearly. So we do appreciate that. And then to ask questions, it's pretty simple. If you're in the web meeting, you can simply raise your hand if we're currently answering a question, or if we're in a dead spot, you can certainly just speak up. You can also post into the chat, and then we'll get to your question as soon as we can. So don't be afraid to speak up when we're asking for questions. And then all we ask is if you are responding to a question that you would just announce yourself, so we're not just talking to the person behind the curtain. We know who we're talking to. So just some ground rules there. But for today's session, we have a very special guest with us, a Salesforce MVP. Kartik is on with us, and Kartik is he's got a lot of accolades there. He's very skilled when it comes to Apex and Salesforce architecture. He heads up the Boston developer group, and he's really the man when it comes. He's one of the men when it comes to Apex. So we're excited to have him on. Hopefully you've queued up your questions for him today. We want to keep him busy answering your toughest questions around Apex, and it could be anything Salesforce in general. It doesn't have to be limited to Apex, but his skills, and now you can ask those questions. So, Kartik, do you want to say hi real quick?
Hey, first of all, let me start by thanking you, Jared. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you making me part of this awesome office hours that you do twice every month. I heard so many great things about it. So I was actually part of it before I was an MVP. I joined a couple of officers. I did learn a lot of stuff, and it's amazing what type of questions the community comes up with, what problems that they have on their day-to-day basis. It's just so awesome to be part of such a great community. And so yes, and thanks for the introductions. As Jared said, I'm primarily a developer, and I because of that passion, I started the developer group out in Boston, where I live. I live close to Boston area, and we are close to 600 plus developers in my group, and we do the same kind of style, but we meet every month and talk about all the awesome stuff, great stuff. And so I'm hopefully I'll be able to answer all of your questions. If not, I'll definitely get back to you using through Twitter or through any means, and I'll see if I can find the answer for your question if I'm not able to answer it in this call.
Awesome.
With that.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Kartik. And I know we also have some couple other MVPs on, so we're definitely ready to answer questions. So with that being said, who wants to kick us off with the first question? And don't be shy. Jessica has her hand raised. Go ahead, Jessica.
Hi, my name is Jessica, and I'm a Salesforce admin. I have a couple questions. One, I got an email from our sales reps the other day, and they enter call notes or they go out and visit different practices, medical practices, and they put it in their notes in just a task. We have a custom header for their task, but they enter it all in through tasks. What they want to do is right now they have some key topics that they are concerned about that they want to make sure that they address with each physician. So all their sales teams below them. So these are like the directors, sales directors. Right now we have pick lists on the task, so some custom pick lists. So they go in, they type in their comments, they do a pick list of some topics that they talked about, multi-select unfortunately, and they save it. So that's what we have going on right now. What they want to do is they want to just be able to type in the comment section, and kind of like how Chatter is, where you can hashtag and do topics, but they wanted to be specific topics, like only specific words would work. And I looked around and I couldn't find a way to do that in a comment section, so I was hoping maybe you had some suggestions on how to handle that.
Okay, so that's a very interesting challenge, Jessica. Thank you for raising your hand first. So from the Apex perspective, it should be a straightforward trigger on a task where you read the comments, and you know how in the chatter what you do is you put like a hashtag or @ symbol to identify a specific topic or something. So you figure out how to put into the comments maybe a @ sign or a hashtag and then the comment, and that would identify that topic. And then within the trigger, you write code to pull out all those words that begin with a hashtag, and then auto-populate your multi-select pick list.
Now, is it I have very limited experience with Apex, and I'm going to actually focus on that when I go to Dreamforce this year. But my question is it kind of like SQL where you can do a like the word, so in case they make it a plural or a past tense word, can I make it like?
Well, you don't even have to write SQL. So what I'm envisioning is you write a before update or a before insert trigger on a task,
mm-hmm.
and then you get the comments. So the comments is a field on the task. So you get that field and you do a contains on it. So
okay.
There is a string method called contains.
Okay.
So you can just do a contains, and you can figure out whether it contains a hashtag, and if it does, then pull that word, and then you can basically populate other field.
Okay. All right. That sounds very straightforward. I can probably do that. And
yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. And the other question I had is just maybe I know you can't see it, so it's going to be difficult to answer. But I'm looking just first. I've built a flow. It's the first time building a flow. Actually, I use a process builder normally, but I built a flow, and to pull into it, basically I wanted to trigger off a button on an account. So I wanted to push a button, it pull the account number, and start working. Insert the records on the account. For some reason, I ran it on the account to test, and it did fine. It added all the records. Hallelujah, it was great. But when I went to do it again on another account, when I clicked the button, it just said your flow is complete. It wasn't going back and pulling the new account number. And so I was just looking for ideas of why that might happen.
Oh, that's interesting. Do we have an automation champion here on the call? Is it what? but I think it's the input variable. So you need to pass the input variables from the URL as a URL parameter to the flow. So that would be like you define an input variable in the flow, which is your account ID, and then when you create a button, that is like /flow and then your flow name, and you can pass in that variable as a URL parameter, and then it would take that variable and it will process that account.
Okay, so when I say basically go to get record on the flow, I need to also put it in the button ID, the button code as well.
Yeah, in the button. So when you define a button on the page layout, so the way you do it is to create a button and then you say like it's a URL button, and then you say like /flow and /name of the flow name, and then you add in the merge field. So you put a question mark. You put in the variable that you have in the flow, and then you define like a merge field, account.id. So then it would always pass in the account ID for that account on which you're clicking the button.
Okay. All right. I will give it a shot. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Who's next?
This is Kevin. I've got one for you.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
I guess I should have raised my hand first. Sorry about that.
No worries.
We use a third-party tool for territories called Terraline. And I have a flow built currently that updates what we call a primary alignment field. And in the flow, it updates the same field 3 times. So it does a fast lookup, and then it has a decision, and then if it hits the right decision, it'll go into a record update. Then it flows to another decision, and it does this over and over. When I add 3 record updates to the same flow, it works fine. As soon as I add a 4th, I get an error on convert screen that basically says lead convert, bulk lead convert, handle regular account insert. Gives me a line item and just kind of gives me that error. I can't figure out why it's not allowing me to do that 4th record update.
That's so. Is there a specific error that you are getting?
Say again.
What's the error that you are getting?
It's the basically says cannot execute flow trigger. The record couldn't be saved because it failed to trigger flow. Flow being flow trigger failed to execute flow with version, which is never works. Contact your administrator, and it gives me just a class .lead convert .bulk lead convert .handle regular account insert. Then it gives me like a line 223 column 1 class thing.
Maybe so. Maybe that's an Apex class that you have in your org that's failing. But as a best practice, here is what I would recommend or suggest you to try is within the flow you are doing updates, right? So you do a fast lookup, you check a condition, you set the field value, and then you update.
Correct.
Instead of updating it every time, you set it. So you do a set. That means you set the field value, but don't update it. So don't update it until you reach the end of the flow, until you finish all your condition checks. And at the end is when you do an update. So that way you'll be updating only once, right?
Well, the only problem with that is there's a lot of triggers on that one field. So each time we add a specific value to that field, it adds 2 or 3 custom objects through a managed package with the Terraline tool. So I need it to actually trigger multiple times on the account, so those custom objects are created each time.
Got it.
Yeah, so this is Jared. So I'm just looking this up, and are you the update there? That update, is that? And I may have missed it. Is it trying to update the lead?
Just on the account. Oh, are you saying is it trying to update the lead after the convert?
Yeah.
So I was looking through the help, and they're saying that's what's doing it. But I don't think it's 100% accurate because I can drop one of the other updates out of the flow and it works just fine.
Well, here's this is Cal Smith. I'm one of the other MVPs. Here's part of what's going to happen here. You're going to start running into limits in your execution context. There's a limit of 150 DML updates, DML operations that can occur in the execution context. So if you've got these other triggers that are firing, that are spawning off of every time you do an update, they're also consuming the same DML and SOCL and other limits that are available to you in this flow. And all of these limits are going to accumulate on you if you don't bulkify this process.
Yeah, so I think the process itself, because you're trying to do multiple updates in like a single transaction, and you cannot avoid it, I would recommend is maybe split it up into two different transactions and do it in like two different transactions so you won't hit the limits.
But are you saying maybe do like one update and then have that flow update a field which will trigger another flow and then have it kind of stair step down?
Well, not even that. So do like two different flows and then maybe like as two different steps on your page for a user. Gotcha. Because you need to avoid doing all these things in one single transaction.
Yeah,
okay.
Either that or move the entire thing to a trigger where you can control the recursion.
If I knew how to write triggers, I'd definitely do that.
Because that way you could put all of this into maps.
Gotcha.
And bulkify it.
And you don't even know whether
all these other objects.
Yeah, you don't even know whether the issue is happening on your code or in the managed package or somewhere, right? So
right.
Exactly.
That's my other problem is I don't know, and I can't see into the managed package to help.
Have you looked in the logs at all? Is there anything messaging?
I have.
Yeah, that's gonna be my question.
It always says success. It never fails, but I also get the error, so I never get past the lead convert screen. I put a case in for it with actual Salesforce support. It's at tier 3 now, and they're trying to figure it out too.
Very, very interesting issue. It's definitely complex to trying to figure it out without looking at it on the fly. But if you got an opportunity, look at the debug log. In the debug logs, you'll be seeing all the limits. So it will show you exactly, all the different types of limits that you have consumed. And if you run with 3 updates and look at the debug logs, you'll get a list of all the limits, and it will say how many you have consumed. And it might say that you're closer to limit. So if you consume like 140 DML operations, so it might say that 140 out of 150. And on the 4th update, if you look at the debug logs, because you're already on 140 on the 3rd, so maybe you're going and hitting that limit.
Okay. I'll get that as well.
This is Cal. If you can run 3 records through, what he's saying is, and look at the debug log afterward, you will see what limits were used for your code in your execution, and you'll also see what the total limits were used for both your code and any managed packages, because they run in a different context, and they have their own set of limits, plus they may consume some of your limits. And you'll be able to tell what the total is that was used and how close you were.
Right, and then when I add the 4th, that should tell me.
Exactly, yeah. If you run 3 records and see how close you are to hitting your limits. And that should give you an indication of what's happening.
I'll give that a shot. I appreciate the suggestion, guys.
Yeah, and also feel free to post if you want to post a screenshot of your flow into the office hours group, and even the error. We can dig in there as well.
I'll do that.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, John Graff, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, hey guys, how's it going? Good to hear from you again. I've been busy, so I've missed the last couple of calls, but I always love all the interesting things I learn here, things I didn't even think to be asking before. But this is a new one for me, and it's actually maybe a broad and vague question, but I have a user who's been reluctant to get involved in a lot of the features involved with Salesforce, very stuck in her own ways. We've all dealt with that user before. But she's showing a little bit of initiative and started using events to schedule her meetings around the project. As a project manager, she's got meetings for submittal and for service and for whatever it is. So I'm trying to encourage her to use events. The thing is, I guess to do that, I need to learn a little bit more about it. I need to know if you guys have some good videos, which usually do well for me and for her, to point me in the direction of. And specifically, the first question she had is when she issues out an event and invites people to it, and it shows up on their calendars, which is awesome. We need a tentative button, and there is only an accept and decline, and tentative is kind of important, right?
Oh, that's a very interesting scenario. So I'm not that much familiar with if I don't even know if we have a tentative button in Salesforce. So there are a lot of tons of videos on how you work with the events in Salesforce, and also how you set up if you're using Outlook. I don't know if you're using Outlook, but if you're using Outlook, how you set up the Outlook.
That's going to be a follow-up question that I may or may not get to, because I know it's time sensitive, but Outlook. The last time I tried to do Outlook and Sync, I guess I did it wrong. I was only 2 months into being an admin, and I synced everything, and everything just clogged up in every direction. So no one's been wanting to touch it ever since. But like I say, that's secondary. It's wave 2. How do I get events to work for them properly in Salesforce, right?
I don't know. So for the configuration part, yes, it is. The newer version is much more, I think, efficient than the older version for the Salesforce for Outlook, because it has a lot more capabilities and sync features from what I have seen the demos. For the events, I don't know if I'm not sure if there is a way you can use tentative. There is only 2 access for the client. So I don't know if Jared or someone has some other thoughts. But that's what that's what I can say.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything off the top of my head to add to that. I'm trying to think. Yeah, the latest one has got a lot of functionality in it.
Well, I'm definitely going to be looking into syncing everything up. That's a big deal, and I need to prove it to them otherwise. And I don't know if you guys knew of anybody who's put done a demo video on the features of tasks and events within the last time I found one, it was from 2011. Clearly not valid anymore. There's a lot of features that have been updated since then, right?
Yeah, are you talking in Salesforce or within the
in Salesforce, just the native stuff, because the cool thing is that might also get them to use Salesforce One a little bit more if it's not necessarily in their Outlook, but there is a push notification from Salesforce One telling them about an event or a task coming up, right?
Yeah. So there hasn't, from the native functionality, there hasn't been a ton of updates really. But yeah, they have added some of the stuff around the Today feature within Salesforce One is great. They can obviously see their tasks and events for today, and they can get push notifications, things like that. I usually don't recommend using it to send out calendar invites, just because it's not, it's simply just not built for that. Like, it's built, you could do it with like internal users, but then that requires every internal user to sync over their calendar and to have their calendar updated in Salesforce.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really equipped to fully do that. Whereas, if Outlook or Gmail, right, you have access to see those people's calendars. So I don't usually recommend doing that per se. I do, think it's okay to, sync over those items. I usually recommend not to sync things like contacts, at least from.
Yeah, I've learned that lesson already.
Yeah. At least from Outlook. I think it's okay to sync from Salesforce to Outlook, but definitely not the other way. So yeah, that's what I would say. I would think there should be some stuff on Trailhead, but I haven't looked. And then I would also, maybe you may have to dig through some of the online release notes, but at least now they're a little easier to search through. But yeah, the Today feature is the biggest one from a mobility standpoint, but yeah, that would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think they are also releasing with the new Lightning experience. The whole event management using of the calendar is much more intuitive compared to the standard UI that we have today. So maybe I would say recommend is like if you want to use the whole events, maybe wait for a couple more releases and see what they're going to bring it up. Like they are launching so many new things with the Lightning experience.
Okay. All right. That's a very fair assessment. If you guys do come across a video, feel free to send it out, and I'll keep an ear to the ground and success and on Twitter. But I appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Sat, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Hey guys, hey Jared. So we are exposing Tableau dashboard within a Visualforce page on iframe. My question is, Tableau dashboard has the corporation brand and a banner on top of the dashboard that I can pass a parameter on the URL and get rid of the banner if I actually expose the dashboard. But if I want to go to exposing the parent page, which is the login page, and then the login page redirects me to a dashboard, after they select the dashboard they have access to, the parameter does not pass to the child page. So my question is there a way we can hide div tag within a Visualforce page for the child page? Does that make sense?
That's a big security thing, I think, with the way you're trying to hide the divs for a child page. Is there an event that you can fire from your child page? If you are able to fire an event, we can listen for that event on the Visualforce page, and then we can hide the div tag like that. So if you for example, when the child page loads, if the child page is able to say that okay, I am loaded, or like is able to fire some kind of event saying that the child page is loaded, Visualforce, we can write some JavaScript or maybe jQuery to listen for that event. And then when the event is fired, because we can register that event on the page load, and when the event is fired, we catch that event and then we hide the div tag.
Right, but the event would be fired on the parent page, right? So when I expose the login page, they just select one of the dashboard they have access to, and they click on it, and they get redirected within the Tableau server into the particular dashboard. So I just could not find a way to make how how to pick that up within a Visualforce page, so Visualforce page would hide that div tag.
So the only way that I could think of is by using the events. But if you say that the event is, you cannot fire an event from the child page because the redirect happens from the parent page to a child page.
So you want me to create an event on the Tableau page or within the Visualforce page? Like you were saying, just make something click on the Visualforce page. Is that what you're saying?
If that, I mean, you could do that. That would be like an easy one. Clicking on the Visualforce page would be an easy one, but that does not serve your purpose, right? I mean, they have to click on the Visualforce page to hide a div, which is like, why would they click it, right? I mean, but if you are able to build something on the Tableau page that can emit that event, and you can grab that event on the Visualforce. And again, this is like the cross-site scripting. I don't know the security implications with that because I've never really tried that. But you can try it out. I mean, if you have on the child Tableau page, if you are able to emit an event, and in the Visualforce page, you just look for that event and see if you can hide the div.
Okay, I'll try to see if there's a way for me to do that. I need to talk to some of the Tableau experts and see what they say on that. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, very interesting scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess maybe this is a question for me. Wouldn't it be hard, right, if you're iframing a page in to change up that iframe without, using, parameters for the iframe URL? I guess that question is for Kartik. I don't, Yeah.
Oh, what was the question? Sorry.
Yeah, if you're iframing that in, right, it's going to be hard to fully. Can you adjust that page that you're iframing in?
That's true as well. You cannot really. I mean, that's a security thing, right? I mean, when you iframe in the page, you do not have access to a lot of things that the iframe within the iframe, right, from the Visualforce page. It's kind of a hard thing to do. But there is. I was just wondering if there is other way other than iframing it.
I'm not sure if there's. I mean, we can use API.
Yeah, but that would be, I think, the thoughts there, right? Is you probably have to try those avenues. Awesome. Well, we have Mary. You have your hand raised. What's your question?
Actually, I have two.
Go for it.
Let me start with the first one. It's a little bit more complicated, or it is for me anyway. So we have a trigger that does a round robin on work orders, and we have vendors who are accounts. So what it does is it goes and it looks for these certain criteria. The trigger will run and it looks for capabilities and capacity, and it will assign a trigger or assign a vendor to a work order. So we have a flow that we created to create a work order based on some criteria from a previous work order. So it goes in and creates a work order and creates a work order line item. And we need the trigger to fire off of that work order, but it's not. Is there a way to do that with Flow? Are we missing something to trigger it? To trigger the trigger?
To trigger the trigger. I mean, the trigger generally fires when there is a change to that record, right?
The record.
I mean,
yeah, it's after insert, after update is what the criteria is
and,
on the trigger.
When is your flow running?
It is running when another work order meets a specific criteria, a checkbox basically equals true. When this one checkbox equals true, then it creates a new work order and a new work order line item.
And so that's firing a process that is running your flow?
Yeah, we have a workflow that is firing the flow.
Okay, so that's the headless. What you could do is, so this is more like a design thing I would recommend is. So your trigger is firing, it is doing this round robin processing and calculation. So ideally what we would do is we would take all the logic that's happening for the round robin, right, and put it in a separate class.
Okay.
So that class can be accessed from anywhere else. I mean, it should be. So
yes,
your trigger will be like an entry point for that class. So your trigger fires, it will call that Apex class that is doing the round robin logic, and this does it. And the same way, you can write a kind of like a wrapper that you can call from a flow. So you can, I mean, if you know flow, from flow you can call an Apex class.
Okay, we can.
You just need to build like some kind of a wrapper which implements a specific interface called invocable, and then from that wrapper you call the same round robin class that you wrote.
Okay.
So it again goes to that your round robin logic.
Okay, and how did you call the Apex? You said it was a wrapper. I'm not familiar with flow very well either. This was like our first flow that we built, so.
So the Apex class, in order for an Apex class to be visible to your flow, you need to implement a very specific method. It's called, I think it's called invocable action or invocable method, something like that.
Okay.
And then you can look at that Apex class in your flow. So you can see that Apex class present in your flow. You can drag it. You can add it to as a part of your step.
Okay, in the flow?
Yes.
Okay. That works. We're banging our heads on this one. And then
so the main part is to make sure that your core logic that you have for the round robin is pulled out from the trigger, and then put it in. You need to put that one on a separate class.
Oh, okay, in a separate class, in order for it to just call that section.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, sweet. And then the second one, which is pretty easy, and I just can't figure it out. I have a formula, and I'll copy it and put it in the thing. And I need that 8 a.m. to be current time and not 8 a.m.
I'm sorry, Jared. I think the formula is pasted in the chat window.
Yeah, here, let me paste that to all here. Oh, whoops. All right, there it is.
Somebody else wrote this, and I was just trying to figure out how to get the 8 a.m. out of there and put it in as current time. So it's pulling in the current date, but I need the current time also pulled in.
Oh, yeah.
You need to use a now method, I think. Isn't it like a function called now, NOW?
Yeah, so this is actually a date time field is what we're pulling this into. What this is a hyperlink that we're pre-populating some of the fields. And this particular field is a true date time field, a custom date time field.
Yes, but the today function, right? The today that you're using, it's only a date, so it does not have the time component to it.
Right.
So in order for you to get the time component, so I'm not great with formulas, but I think it's NOW now.
So if I just take out all of that and put now?
Well, now is going to now brings back the date and time representing the current moment.
Okay. And what we are trying to do is when they create the record, we want that date time to be populated.
Yeah, so then you could create, so you could use now to do that. So basically, whenever that record's created, you have some sort of workflow, right, that updates that field with now as the formula for that field update.
Instead of today.
Yeah. If you do now with, open paren and then close paren.
Right.
It'll insert that in.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Good questions today. We got about 10 or so minutes left. Who else has questions? Rita, go for it.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, great. Okay. Is there a way to automatically send an email based on an opt-in checkbox? For example, on our contact topics, we have custom checkboxes for marketing opt-in and training opt-in. And we would like to automatically send an email based on whichever one when that is checked. Is there a way to do that and to do it just one time?
I think you're able to do that using the process builder itself, right? What you do is you write a formula field on the contact. Again, it can be a checkbox that says send email, and that formula is based on your other two checkboxes turned on. And you write a process builder that will look for that formula field to be checked, and then send an email, and then you can turn off. You can basically, not really a formula. You can basically turn that flag off so that it won't run it again. So I think that's what you can do without writing code. I mean, through Apex, it's fairly straightforward. It will be a trigger that sends an email, and that's it. And you can, but if you don't want to go into the realms of writing code to do this, you can do this using a process builder.
Okay, the problem I was having, there is a send email alert, which I guess goes to users, but I was trying to build an email to the contact, and I was having trouble with process. So I tried using it with flows, and I just didn't get it right. So I was wondering, do I actually need to go into Apex and build something there?
I thought you can send emails to the contacts. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure. But in Apex, yes, you can do that. You can send an email to the contact. I mean, it's straightforward. I can. I don't know. I mean, Jared or Calvin, if you have like any thoughts around sending email to the contact from the process builder.
Yeah, you should definitely be able to do that. And I think what you were saying earlier, Kartik, makes sense, right? So you set up a process that whenever that field is checked on a contact, and if you only want to send it one time, right, create a checkbox that is said, we'll call it marketing email sent, right? Name it whatever you want. Create that checkbox field. Then your criteria is, hey, when the contact, when this checkbox field is checked and this other field is not checked, right, then send this email and also update this checkbox field. So you would do two actions in the process builder. One, sending an email using your email template that you set up. And then two, a field update to basically check your checkbox field, preventing it from ever running again unless that checkbox field is unchecked.
Yeah, that provides your recursion protection.
Yep, exactly.
That type of solution works very well.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, not a problem. All right, and actually, Squire messaged on the chat, and he going back to, I believe it was John, right? John Graff, you had that questions on around activity stuff, and
yeah, that was me.
Yeah, Squire had some suggestions.
Oh, hey, Squire, how's it going?
Hi. Good, thank you. I just wanted to circle back because I've kind of dealt with similar issues with the events doing not quite as much as the users want. What you're going to struggle with is that Visualforce, or not the Visualforce, but the standard page layout, those two sections are tied to a restricted pick list on an object called event relation. And so by adding a button to the event, you could have that button do something, say trigger a flow or whatever, to update your pick list, except that you can't get to the pick list values to modify to add more options. With me so far? Right, you've got either accepted or declined effectively, right, or hasn't responded. So the back way through that is you create another formula or another workflow for your own custom response field, and then you have it do either, you let the native functionality turn on response of accepted or declined or not responded, and have it run this new pick list. But then what you end up having to do is create your own Visualforce page of the event to have the multiple sections. Mm-hmm. Or you change the layouts of those sections to display this new pick list value to say, like, instead of accepted, it would be effectively your response column, but you'd have responded tentative and responded accepted kind of bucketing in that same box. But you end up having to work around it because you can't declaratively modify that response restricted pick list from the interface.
I see what you mean. I'm going to take 4 left to go right, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those things where we would like to have on our events we push out accepted, declined, tentative, follow up, and a couple of other ones, and they all end up doing these, going around to the right to end up in the left, and then we just have a Visualforce display that has more sections. That was fortunately a very easy development, but it addresses the need.
Sure. That's very, very helpful. I appreciate it. I'll approach it from that direction. That might help out.
Yeah, you bet. And like I said, the object is event relation, and you can get to it from Dev Console, so you can see your impact, but you just can't see it from the declarative console.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I see. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thanks, Squire. Good stuff. All right, we've got time for about one last question. Who wants to wrap
I have a question for you, Squire. Couldn't you also do that with record types, where it's pending at a certain record type, and then it's confirmed when you change the record type when it's confirmed?
Absolutely. The trick of it is still that the response is at the sub-record, and sometimes those you end up having you can't even get to it from some of the paths. So you end up having to write like object layer either triggers or real easy Apex to make those data corrections happen because you can't get to it from like the normal record type changes. But it should work that way, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm used to writing triggers and code and stuff on everything anyway. So, but yeah, the point and click folks, obviously have, more difficulty with some of these issues than people who can, write some code.
Absolutely, and from my own perspective, because I like to dive into it as well, that inevitably you write something and you hand it off to a junior admin who doesn't know why something's not working natively because they can't see it. So that's my biggest concern always about code.
Yeah, I live by the object reference.
Yep.
When you get into these things. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that.
And so I was remembering going back to the question on the Tableau. I think it was a chat. I was thinking instead of an iframe, if you are able to create a Canvas app that you can use, I don't know if you have worked on the Canvas apps, but I would say it's like more glorified than an iframe, where you can pass in all these various parameters back and forth between your app that you are surfacing and the Visualforce page. So you can have a Canvas app built in for your Tableau servers, and then you can use that Canvas app to display it on the page, and then you can pass in all kinds of parameters from the page or from the Tableau without any issues. Something to
what's happening with the Lightning and Canvas, though?
They should work. I mean, so there are some limitations or something in the past, but hopefully because it's Salesforce related, they will make sure that they fix all those things. So they should work going forward without any issues.
Okay. Wasn't there also something in a roadmap in Salesforce where you could put a URL within a Visualforce page, or just expose a Visualforce page as a dashboard? In Lightning?
In Lightning, there is support for Visualforce as part of Summer 16. So you have that ability in Lightning.
Okay. We already do. Okay.
Yeah.
So theoretically, I can put an iframe and then expose that Visualforce page as a dashboard.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to see all my options. So I think there are some restrictions with how much of APIs can we get hit with Canvas and things like that. So we're just looking at all of our options. But thank you very much.
One thing to remember is that Visualforce pages are still served from the Visualforce server, and they're in a different context than the Lightning server. So your user sessions are different. So you need to keep track of those things when you're doing them on a Lightning page. Even though they're a Visualforce page that's in a quote Lightning iframe.
Okay. Thanks.
Visualforce, or it's in a Lightning wrapper, I think is what they call it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap that up for today, and let you know that our next call is going to be September 9th, and our special guest will be Eric Wu. He's one of the founders of Bracket Labs, who make the app TaskRay, which you may have heard of. So definitely check that session out. Look for the announcement on Twitter as well as the community group. But I'd like to thank Kartik for joining us as our special guest today, and thanks to Cal and Squire and everyone else for helping answer questions. And as always, if you have any feedback on the office hours, definitely feel free to message me directly or post on the community group. But we really appreciate everybody's time and all the great conversation. So have a good weekend.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.